YouTube? I'm Jason with Upshifting Adventures, and I'm out here today with my friend Will. We decided to take the opportunity we've been given here in Colorado with a little bit of good weather to go out and ride, and figured while we were out riding we would go over some of the differences in between our two bikes for those who are interested in the BMW GS series bike. I'm riding a 2020 1250 GS Adventure, and Will is on a 2021 1250 GS.
22.
Or correction, sorry, 22 1250 GS, and both of our bikes have the rally package. Now there are some slight differences in the bikes, a couple of larger differences, but most of them are really small differences. And we thought it'd be a good idea to go over the two bikes for people that aren't sure which one they really want. And I'll tell you, one of the big decisions that went into it for me in purchasing this bike is I'm not a research guy and a fit all the pieces and parts that I want. I wanted to just go into the dealer, get my bike, and drive out of the showroom, right? So on the GS Adventure, it pretty much comes with everything you can possibly get on the bike, to include, you know, the crash bars, the adjustable suspension, and all that. Whereas Will, he does his homework. He knew what he wanted on his bike, and I'll let him talk more about his decision making in buying the GS model. But basically, he was able to take all the stuff that he wanted on the bike, purchase the GS, and then upgrade from there. All right, so one of the main differences between the GS Adventure and the GS model is the Adventure comes with the cross-spoked wheels, and the GS model comes with the aluminum spoked, although Will opted to upgrade to the same wheels that are on the Adventure. The really big difference between the two bikes is the GS Adventure comes with a 7.9 gallon tank, and the GS Standard comes with a 5.3 gallon tank. So obviously your legs overland are a little bit longer on this bike, but that doesn't necessarily matter, because where are you going to go in America today where you can't go, where you're going to go 200 miles without finding a gas station? So not really a big concern. So what I'll do now is I'll let Will talk kind of about why he opted for the GS model as opposed to the Adventure model.
Yeah. So really good points. Specifically the seat height and all that. I actually didn't know that when I fit myself to the bikes. For me, that was what I went to the dealership for, and this bike was sitting next to it, and it was stripped down, none of the extra stuff. But it was sitting next to the GSA, and the tank size was intimidating when you first sit on it. And it was also probably in hindsight, the one thing I wish I would have really had was the extra mileage, just because I ride with him. So sometimes, it's like he's like, I got another 100 miles, and I'm like, hey, we got to stop and get gas. But that was the big deciding factor for me, the size of it. My concern was getting on the track and then dropping it, falling, something happening, and then struggling that 50 extra pounds or whatever the equivalent might be to lift it. Now I've added all the extra weight, so I'm still quite heavy, but still just a bit less with the less size tank. But that was the biggest deciding factor for me. And this bike, particularly the model, there wasn't a lot of upgrading for the bike itself. It was really just the extras, what I wanted on it. I wanted certain things that, obviously the panniers, and I wanted a beefier roll cage. The roll cage they come with has certain little connection points that if it's dropped too hard, this piece can bend back and actually affect the cylinder head. Where on I think if I remember right, I got the Lone Rider one, but yep. I can't remember the exact brand right now. But it has extra protection that goes to the frame, so that your heads are protected a little bit more. But the one problem on mine, I noticed, is I don't have a bar that goes on the backside, so it's really vulnerable that way. Where the standard one is actually a little bit more protected on the backside of the cylinder head. Yeah, those are the big things for me. There's a couple of the small things, like your brake lever. You have the custom, like the two level brake lever for standing, sitting.
Yeah, on the rear brake pedal.
Yep. And then I had to, and because I didn't have an adjustable shifter lever, I had to upgrade the shifter lever, and then particularly the Motec tank bag, which I wanted something to make it easy to get in and out for getting gas or just wallet, keys, phone stuff, that kind of thing. But for the most part, that's the key differences that made me choose the smaller GS model versus the GSA.
Right. Yeah. Now, so Will's GS model is the rally model, which it is why it has the cross spoke wheels, the adjustable suspension, and all that. So, I mean, we don't want to confuse the difference between the GS Adventure and the GS models with also the trim packages you can get with them, right? So that's a rally. Mine's a rally trim package. His is a rally trim package. But if we just broke it down to the baseline models, mine would still have the engine guards and all that on it, but it wouldn't have the rally upgrades,
Yep.
and neither would his, right? So now the base model of the GS Adventure is right around 22.5, and the base model of the Rally here is right around 18.6. So it's about a 4,000, or excuse me, a 2,500 mile. Do that again.
Money, dollars.
Money, dollars, miles, whatever. It's about a $2,500 difference between the GS Adventure and the GS base model. Now, of course, once you put on your engine crash guards and you buy the upgraded suspension and the wheels, it's not really that much cheaper. What he has basically, compared to what I've got, is he's got a bike where he can get his knees much closer in, squeeze them on the tank. You don't have, like, if this thing is a half a tank down, that's a lot of gas sloshing left and right all over the place. And it is, the GS Adventure is 50 pounds heavier than the GS standard model. So that, again, if you're dropping it a lot and you're constantly picking it up off the ground, that extra 50 pounds will wear you out awful quick. I don't ever drop mine because I don't ever do anything hard on it. I take the easy road at all times. He gets a little more adventurous. So,
Although I don't crash.
but yeah, so I figured the best way to not have to worry about picking up the heavy bike is just don't lay it over. Just stay on the road, right? But no, I'm kidding. Of course, that's what these things are meant for, and that's what the Adventure is all about. Is you know, both of us have a tendency to find ourselves alone in the backcountry quite often, and you know, it's always an adventure trying to figure it out by yourself. And then, you know, I dropped it one time. I would pick it up and it would fall over the other way. I was just getting my butt whipped. And this guy drove by and he said, "Hey, why don't you try this?" You know, I think, why didn't I think of that, right? Dude shows up 10 seconds later. He's already figured out what I need to do. It never occurred to me. It could be because I was really tired at the time. But yeah, so at any rate, so my bike, I get about, if I'm good, if I'm behaving on the throttle, on super slab, I could get about 400 miles out of a tank full. Will, what are you getting?
About 190.
About 190. So there is, I mean, it is almost twice as big. You know, it's an extra 4 gallons. And also, you know, when I bought this, because I also have a couple of other bikes, as does Will, I like this bike for the super slab 3,000 mile adventures, right? So I can get on this, and my girl can get on the back, and we can go, you know, until our butts hurt, and then have to stop and get off for gas. So for me, since I did buy it primarily as an overland cruiser, I do like having that extra fuel capacity. What are some of the other options that you got on yours, Will, that you opted for?
I think the biggest ones, yeah, obviously I did the Barkbuster handguards versus, I'm not sure which ones those are.
Yeah, those are the factory,
That's the factory
Beamer ones, yeah.
So I wanted the Barkbuster. I just like Barkbuster, but yours have more wind deflection. Mine don't get a lot of wind, so I actually bought the cold weather envelopes to go over. I bought those. A couple things like the tank on mine sits lower, so a tank bag doesn't affect me nearly as, like, if I were to put another tank bag on. If you put this one on that, it's going to ride higher in your chest, in your vision, especially if you're doing uphills and standing, which is obviously where you're going to be standing and going uphill. I didn't take off the back seat. I left the seat because I like it heated for the wife.
That is nice.
I think that's really... Oh, I did relocate the fog lights as well. Down low, I felt it was just too close to the ground. So another kit that came that you could buy with this roll cage allowed it to come up higher, give it a little bit more vision.
Nice.
I felt like.
And you did buy the cylinder head covers, right? Or are those the ones that came?
No, those are the armored ones.
Yeah. So that's.
Yeah, because. Oh, sorry, the microphone. But because my bars have a little less rear cylinder protection,
right,
they have these armor plates you can put on there. So I bought those as well.
And that really is a must with these boxer motors, because you lay it down just right on a rock and puncture that cylinder head the cover. Next thing you know, you got oil everywhere, and you're not going anywhere. So yeah, so you know, basically, You will hear people say, well, you know, the adventure bike is the premier of the GS bikes, right? And this is the lower model. Nothing could be further from the truth, because as you can see from Will's bike, in the end, you're going to spend the same amount for both of them. But what it does give you the option between the two bikes is, for your personal riding style, this bike can be outfitted the way you want, which he did a great job. He already knew before he even bought the bike what he was going to put on it, all that stuff, you know. And then for a guy like me who's just doesn't want to think, you just buy this bike. It's got everything that it can have, and then you add your, you know, bags and stuff like that. But
it does come to price. You're right, though. Because I think I want to say I spent $9,800 in accessories.
Right.
So it put me well above where I could have just bought like the GSA.
Right.
And dealt with the extra size, got the extra gas that I wanted. But the biggest difference, like what you said, is like I got to pick the ones I wanted. I knew I wanted the little beefier bars and all that. But you're right, though. Like the dollars, dollar for dollar, I might even be into it more.
Exactly.
Because I bought like the very specific. I wanted the black frame. I wanted the black boxes.
Right.
Or the panniers. We do have the same.
The ram
I got
mount.
these mirrors because you told me to get
Yep,
them. I actually believe. But these were a huge upgrade. The ram mount was another one that was a great. I took that out of a race car. That was a cheater. I didn't have to buy it.
Nice.
Well, not this time, anyways.
Right.
Just a little mount to put it on.
Yeah.
The headlights. I mean, these are the protector, the Lone Rider.
Yeah, you got to protect those things.
Yeah, you can't see from that angle, but that is like an absolute must, unless you want to replace lenses on a $2,000 headlight.
Right. Exactly.
The other one, there was one other thing I was about to say. What did I upgrade? There was something else. Oh, you want to talk about GPS units?
Yeah, we can talk about. Yeah, we can talk about the. So you know, these bikes all come with. Well, they don't come with. You can buy the Motorrad Navigator 6, which I think is somewhere around $2,500.
I think the unit is $800 and the mount is another couple hundred. So I think it's about $1,000.
About $1,000? I thought it was a little more than that, but Will's been really happy with his. Mine has left me stranded when I've needed it. It just goes out on me. I can't get it to work. So I actually replaced my Navigator 6 with the Garmin Zumo XT, and I bought a adapter mount from a company in Italy that allows you to just put that adapter in the Nav 6 cradle and then mount your Zumo to that. So I was real happy about that.
Yeah, it's important because the one thing that the dealership, usually the mount comes with the bike usually. It's on your charge sheet as an extra,
right.
But they put it on almost every. I don't think I've seen a GS without it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I know they charge it. I know that you can have them remove it if you want.
Right.
But I guess the reason why it's important is because I spent extra money to get the Motorrad one, and I think that like what you're doing on the outside, you might have better luck with that one, with more features, more customization. The BDR lab maps being
right.
preloaded, not having to go through Basecamp and
exactly.
everything. There are some huge benefits, and in hindsight, I probably would have not bought this one from the dealership because I do like your screens bigger. You do because I like a little bit more real estate on the screen.
Right.
So there are some aftermarket features and things to think about before you go buy it.
Yep.
But the ultimate point, I think, is what I think you said it well, is that there isn't really one's like a Mercedes and one's like a Pinto.
Right.
It's really it's a Mercedes, just different creature comforts.
Right.
Yeah.
I think overall, if you want to just go into a dealership, say, give me a bike that's got everything on it, you buy the Adventure. Yep. If you're willing to put a little bit of research and a little bit of thought into how you want to outfit your bike, you could save a ton of money. Well, a ton of money over buying this and then taking all the stuff off yeah. and putting all the new stuff on, right? I would hate for anybody to think that there's some sort of performance or quality difference between the two motorcycles. That's not at all. It's kind of like buying a Porsche 911 or a Porsche 4-door, family, the Panamera or whatever. They're both Porsches. Yep. There's no difference in that respect. Performance-wise and all that, they are an identical bike. And I do notice that when we're riding down these dirt roads, he goes around the corners a lot quicker than I do. Because this thing, once you get it and it starts to go on you, it lets you know, hey, that's fast enough. I'm about to go down on you.
So I didn't realize your tip over rate was.
Yeah, and because I ride high, on the adjustable suspension, I ride mine on high. Yeah. So My center of gravity is super high on this thing. I think it's because I'm so big, you know, and tall. I'm 6'4", so I figure I'll just ride a taller bike. But now everything's way up higher, you know. And when I do a lot of off-road riding, I'll drop it down to low. The only problem is when I go to dab, my feet are awful close to the ground. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, it does, when you drop that center of gravity down, it makes it a much more maneuverable bike for sure. And I will say that on long stretches of highway, I mean, I can't say scientifically why it matters, but I put this guy on high, and going down the highway, it just kind of floats, especially you put it on road setting, and it just kind of goes over the bumps like a boat on the water.
It actually feels like a boat.
It really does.
Because every bump is just kind of
yeah, it takes a while to kind of settle out.
It's like an old school Cadillac that has bad shocks.
Right, exactly.
It just floats through it, and you just really don't know it's there.
Yep, absolutely.
I keep it on Dynamic Pro all the time, except for out here. You showed me the Enduro Pro for locking up the rear brakes and all that stuff. But on the road itself, I keep it in Dynamic Pro. I like it in the high setting. I like to be higher off the ground. But you're right. On the dirt, I actually kind of try to leave it alone because I want to be comfortable like I was on the normal road as well as the hard pack or in the dirt. But for me, it is kind of high, to be honest with you. I'm on my tippy toes, but when I put it in the auto mode where it adjusts the height for you, my feet get flat. Yeah. But when I just leave it in dynamic, it's tippy toe for sure. Right.
And I've got probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches on Will, and when I have mine in the high mode on this one, I'm the same way. I'm on my toes. I cannot put my feet down flat. But yeah, I mean, these bikes are just, everything about them is awesome, and it's just customizing them to what you want at that point. The factory seat is very good. I love my factory seat. I just bought another seat because I get bad sciatica, and I get the monkey butt pretty bad. So I went with a Saddleman seat. It's a little bit wider. It's got a little bit more pressure point stuff, you know, built into it.
Is the Saddleman, is it still heated?
No, they do have a heated version, but because, you know, coming out of the COVID era, everything was on back order for 8 million years. And I was like, well, I got a long trip coming up. I'm just going to get this guy. And, you know, if it's that cold, it probably is nice to have the heat, but, you know.
It's not cold enough today necessarily.
No.
But I'd be lying if I didn't say it was on.
Right.
And then also that's the only reason my wife will ride. She's like, it'll be middle of summer. She's like, there's wind. Okay, I'll turn the heat seater on.
Absolutely. Yeah, and of course, you got to think of Mama. She's got to be happy too, right? Happy wife, happy life. So.
Well, hopefully people can get from this is like that. It is a hard decision, but it's not an impossible decision.
Right.
And it's not so dramatic that you can. Or that you need to spend a year and a half debating it. The idea is get out on the road, you know, pick up the bike, go down, jump on his bike, or jump on the GSA, jump on the GS, feel what's out for you, what feels comfortable, and then go that way.
Right.
It's really not going to be, oh my God, you know, I'm not going to bash any brands right now. I got this type of bike instead of that. You know, they are very similar.
Yeah.
That's it.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Just try what works for you, but don't spend too much time because it's better riding than thinking about riding.
Yep. Oh, no, for sure. No doubt about that. So yeah, well anyways, you know, thanks for watching the video. I hope that if you're on the fence about which one you want, that this helped you make that decision a little bit. If you did like the video, please smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you get notified with all my new videos come out. I appreciate everybody that watches the video. We got about an hour and a half worth of nice weather left, so I think we're going to go hit the road a little bit and put some more miles on these bad boys. So again, thank you, and I hope to see you guys out on the road.